have spent many, many years, many decades in the CAD industry, both working as a designer at NASA and also working for the companies that made both CAD hardware and CAD software. However, I cannot stress the importance of knowing how to manually draft. It is the key foundation to all design, is being able to manually draft, quickly come up with concept sketches, and to make a product that can be useful for everyone. Every great thing in the world up until about the mid-1970s was typically drawn using manual drafting techniques. This tool right here, the 30-60-90 triangle, is probably one of the most powerful tools we can ever learn to master. And in this exercise, we're actually going to use a CAD tool to design and make our 30-60-90 triangles, as opposed to buying them off the shelf. This will be a custom product that we can keep for many, many years and get a lot of enjoyment out of. In this case here, it's customized using my name, also the high school that I teach at and work at, which is Southeast High School. And also notice these circles right here. In these circles right here, they are the actual length of the first two rings in any standard binder that you may use for your class, for your engineering portfolio binder. So in the process of making this, and to have a better and more efficient use of materials, we'll actually make two of these, where you can keep one at school or your job and keep one at home on your desk where you do your design. So let's get started. Okay, before we get started, let's take some measurements so we can have that for our design. Now, I'm going to use these two triangles that I've already created to get the measurements that I need. And the most important one is this bottom dimension right here. So what I'll do is I'll go to my Home tab, I'll come over here to Utilities, and I'll come down and hit the measurement command here, and we're going to go ahead and select distance there. So I'll start right here at this point on this corner. Oh, first of all, before we get too much farther into that, let's come over here and check on what snaps we have. Verify that you have midpoint checked, and actually all of these checked: endpoint, midpoint, center, node, quadrant, intersection, extension. And I always like to come down and make sure I've got the perpendicular and tangent. Critical in a lot of what we do is going to be in this quadrant right here, so we can make sure that we are actually able to get some of the things we need to measure. Okay, also I'm going to go ahead and check on the parallel measurement as well. So once I've selected the ones I want, I'll hit enter to get started. So again, I'll go ahead, and since I've started, I select on that one point. We'll come down here and select on this point right here. Now it says our X dimension is 6.25, 6¼ inches. Let's go ahead and write that down. Now with that done, I'm going to hit the escape command, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my space bar to recall the last command that I used. In that case, I'm going to get a radius. So now it says select arc or circle. So I'm going to select on this guy here, and it says our radius is 0.125, which gives us a diameter, as it says, of 0.25, quarter of an inch. So let's make sure we write that down. Radius is going to be 0.125, eighth of an inch, which we automatically know our diameter will be a quarter of an inch. So escape to get out of that command. And now what I want to do is I want to measure the distance from here down to there. So again, spacebar command, and I'll go distance, select that, and I'll select this first one here. This is good enough. I'll come down to there. So I'm perpendicular, as you can tell. And that's telling me that my distance is 0.75, which is 3/4 of an inch. I'll write that down too, 0.75 for my opening hole. So I'm writing that down. Okay, that's good. Now, quickly, let's go ahead and escape out of that. And we're going to have to hit the escape command. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go spacebar again, and I want to measure distance. And at this time, I'm going to select on the interior of this circle, click, and I'll come over here to the interior of that circle. I didn't get it that time, so let me get out of that. Spacebar again, distance, select that, come over here and select the center of that circle. So that gives me a distance of 4 4.5/16, which is 4.3125. So let me write that down, 4.3125 for my whole distance. It's always good to make good design notes as you're designing your products. Okay, so we'll stop here for now once we've got this information. Okay, we're going to do a couple more measurements here real quick. Let's go ahead back to our utilities here, and let's go down to the, here, we'll go to utilities, we'll go to measure, and we'll say distance. Actually, before I do that, let's go ahead and check radius. And what I want to check radius is on the circles and arcs. Okay, right here you see an arc, here you see an arc. Let's see what that radius is. It's telling us that the radius is 0.125 for those fillets, those rounded areas on the inside part of the 30, 60, 90 triangle. So 1.25, which is 1/8 of an inch. That's good. Now what I want to do is to measure the distance. Let me go ahead and escape out of that. I want to measure the distance between this line and this line here, so we can look at how far we need to move once we've rotated our first design and copied it to this location and position. Again, maximizing our materials that we're using. So back to utilities, back to measure, back to, now let's go ahead and get the distance here. So I'm going to measure from here, zoom up on this, find the midpoint of that line, which looks like it's right there. I'll come across and making sure that I'm perpendicular, as you can see here, to the other line. So that's giving me a length of 0.125. I need to write that down, 0.125, the parallel distance between the two 30, 60, 90s. Excellent. Escape, get out of that, go ahead and hit the Z key to zoom, and to zoom to extents, which is the extent of the file. Now normally in the AutoCAD certification test, you're going to be using the zoom command from over here and using the palette ribbons as opposed to the key ends like DI for distance or Z for zoom. So that looks pretty good, and now we'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, now what I want to do is to figure out which font that I'm actually using when I create this. If you notice, this is a standard old font that is used often in AutoCAD drawings. We're going to go ahead and use the same font here instead of a true type font. The reason being is that we need to learn how to use these fonts because they're very commonly seen in engineering, drafting, design. So let's go ahead and select the font here, highlight it. We'll come up here to annotation, we'll come down here to standard, and we'll say manage text styles. Once it comes up, I want you to notice up here in the font name where it says DIM SHX. Let's make sure we write that down and we'll use it. Now as far as the size goes, we'll basically set that font size as we design the 30, 60, 90 triangles. Okay, let's go ahead and cancel out of that and we'll get back to this again. Now that we've created our actual, got our actual measurements, we want to go ahead and create a new file. Now there's a lot of ways to do it. You can come up here to, hit the pull down here and you can say new and you can go over and launch it that way. You can also hit right here and it'll say new, creates a blank file. To me, the easiest way to do it when I'm wanting the standard AutoCAD template is just hit the plus sign right here on this tab. Hit that plus sign and there's my new drawing. So I'm ready to get started. Now, we got our measurements, we know what we need to do. So let's kind of zoom up a little bit here and we're going to go over here and hit the line command. So with the line command selected, it says specify the first point. Well, wait a minute. Before we actually do that, let's go ahead and change our polar tracking. So we'll click on this and we're going to come up here because we're drawing a 30, 60, 90 triangle and we're going to select 30, 60, 90, 120. That will be our polar tracking, which will help us design our diagonal line much easier. So I'll select that. Now let's get started. So we're going to come in here, I'm going to click on this first start point right there. And as you can see the green highlight. Now I'm at a distance of 10.7374. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just come back here to about 3. And I'm going to key in 6.25 and hit enter. And so there's my line for my 30, 60, 90, the bottom line here. Now let's go ahead and let's escape out of that for a second. Now let's do a zoom using our ribbon over here to the right. Hit that pull down and say zoom to extents. Wow, it zoomed way up on that. So let's just kind of roll out a little bit with our middle mouse, pull this down here, and there we are. Again, to access the line command, I can select it here, or I can hit the space bar, or I can hit the arrow key. So I'm going to hit the arrow key, and there it is, line, and I'm going to hit, the up arrow key, and I'm going to hit enter. Now it says specify first point. Well, since I've got my snap tracking on, as you can see right here, snap, I can come over here and highlight on that one endpoint of that line and click. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw all the way up here, and you can see my 30-degree diagonal line. Let's zoom out a little bit here. Now to get to that line, the right distance, I'm just going to snap to this end. Don't select it, just kind of select that one little green point there. And I'm going to go up to 30, 60, 90. And you'll see my actual diagonal line come up here in a moment. There it is. You can kind of barely see it. Let me scroll down a little bit. There we go. And so you can see that now I'm at 30, 60. So I'll click on that. Now I'll just hit the C command and close this. Whoops, I'll come down here. It says I don't want to do that, so that's fine. So now we'll come down this way, hit C and close. Let's just go ahead and draw the line in. There we go. So we'll just draw that line in. Now if I set a polygon line, it probably would have been a lot easier to do that. Well, there we have it. So we have our 30, 60, 90 triangle at this point. Let's go ahead and pause for a moment. Okay, let's make the interior hole of our 30, 60, 90 triangle. So next what I want to do is come over here and use the offset command, which will allow us to copy parallel. Again, here's all your modify commands up here, as you can see. So we'll hit the offset command. Now it says specify the offset distance or through erase layer. Well, let's go ahead and do that. We know that distance is 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. So we'll say 0.75. You just go ahead and hit enter. And it says select object to offset. So I'll go ahead and select this guy here. I'll come to the interior, and I'm going to go ahead now and select by offset object, go to the inside there, and come over here and do the same thing with this one here. Okay, so now we've got these objects here offset, and we got to trim these lines up. So I'm going to go ahead and escape out of that, and I'll come up here to my trim command here and click on it. So now I'll select all these objects here, all these lines, and we'll go ahead and trim these objects. So we'll click on this one here, hit enter first, and we'll click on this one here. We'll come out here to this guy first. Now we'll come into this guy. Same here, same here, same here, and same here. Now, what I can do now is go ahead and hit the escape command here. Let's get the escape command. I'm going to select that object and that object. And what I'm going to do now is hit the erase command, which is the E key. So E to erase. And now they're gone. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and do the fillet, which if you look up here, you've got fillet and chamfer and blend curves. We're going to go ahead and go with the fillet. Now it says select the first object or undo radius whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and key on the radius here of 0.125. Again, that was from our notes that we gathered off the last design. Select first object. I'm going to select him, and I'll select him, and there he is. He's gone ahead and done the fillet as we need. Hit our space bar again, and this time I'm going to select multiple, and I'm going to go ahead and hit select him here and this one there. As you can see, it did that. Now we'll go ahead and continue this one and this one. So that part of our 30, 60, 90 is drawn, and it's in our nice circle at 3/4 of an inch on all three sides. Okay, we'll stop here for a moment. All right, I'm going to draw my circle now for my holes for my binder. So I'm going to hit circle command, circle by center radius. That's going to be good. I'm going to use a technique called temporary tracking, where I'm using that corner as a reference point to draw my circle from a specified distance. So I'm going to hit TT for enter. I'm going to move out here to the right, and I'm going to key in 0.5, hit enter. I'm going to go up in the vertical, and in that vertical, I'm going to key in 0.375 for my vertical on that. Okay, that specifies the center point of that circle, so we'll get that going. And now I'm going to key in 0.125 for my radius, which is what it's asking for right now, and hit enter. So there's my circle. Now let's check the measurements on that. Let's go over here to measure, and let's go to distance, and we're going to go to the center of the circle. Click on that. Come over to the side, and it says 0.5 just below the perpendicular word. Come down here, and that says 0.375. That's excellent. Okay, we'll escape out of that. Now we got to draw the other circle. Actually, it's the middle ring that holds this in the binder. So we're going to come up here to this circle here, Command, and we'll go ahead and select that. And we'll come over here to the center of this circle here, and we're going to come off the side of it to the right using our polar tracking, and we're going to key in a number of 4.3125. Okay, we'll hit enter, and it creates this ginormous circle over here. Well, that's not what we want. We know our diameter is going to be, our radius is going to be 0.125, and we're going to hit enter there. And so there's our circle. But let's measure it. Let's double check that. So we'll come back to utilities. We'll go down here to distance, and we're going to go over here to this, specify the center. Come over here to that and specify the center. It says 4.3125. That's perfect. That's exactly what we need. Okay, so let's go ahead and escape out of that, and we'll come back and work on the text. All right, before I get started putting the text in for Southeast High School, or whatever your school is or your business is, I'm going to come up and check my annotation. So I'll come up here to the annotation, click on that pull down bar, and I'll go to the first one. It says text style. Click on it, come down to manage text styles. Now it's automatically come up into True Type font for Arial. That's not the one we want. We want to use more of a Leroy font, kind of a standard old drafting font that you would have seen on a lot of AutoCAD drawings. It makes drawing and managing your files a lot more easier. So I'm going to scroll down here and just see if I can find that one font. I've got a lot of fonts loaded on my computer. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'll just keep clicking until I find that font. And there it is, DIM SHX. Click on that, and we're going to go ahead and hit apply, and we hit close. Now, so I'm going to go ahead and select my single line text here, and I'm going to come off the very bottom of that circle using my polar tracking, and it says specify the start point of your text. I'm going to click here, and now it says specify the height. I'm going to go up to, actually I'm just going to go ahead and hit spacebar. And now it says specify the angle. I'm going to hit 0. And so it's going to come up and ask me. I'm going to key in South East High School. Okay, that first piece of text is hit enter, hit escape, and there it is, Southeast High School. All right, now I want to key in the diagonal text for my name. It's always important to put your name on your property, especially your 3069, into your drafting instruments so they don't get taken. So I'm going to go ahead and come back up here to text, go back down here to single line text. This time what I'm going to do is specify a start point, but I'm going to go off this one edge of the circle again at, let's see, I click on that, and I'll come up here at 3069. See my polar tracking kicking in? That's what I want. I'm going to come up to about right here, or you can come in here, somewhere around that area, and I'm going to say that's my start point. It says set the specify text, specify height, hit space bar, and then specify angle of rotation. I'm just going to come down here and click on my 30-degree diagonal line and start. Now it's going to come back up here with the cursor input point, and I'll key in Richard Platt. And I'll hit enter. It's going to drop down like another line, and I'm going to hit escape. So there it is. My name is actually in there, and you can see how I've designed this triangle. That looks pretty good. We'll come back to this in a moment and make a copy of it and place it on top. Now what I want to do is I'm going to roll out with my middle mouse button, kind of zooming out. I'm going to hold my middle mouse button down, kind of pan down a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and double check we saved our file. Doesn't look like I've done that, so I'll hit save. Then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to select from the right to the left, so that makes sure I get everything. And I'm going to come over here to where you see the copy command on the ribbon. So I'll select that. And it says specify the base point of what I want to copy. So I'm going to come down here to this, and then I'm going to move straight up to the top here, pretty high, and I'm going to click right there. So I've made a copy of this. Let's go ahead and hit the escape command. So now we have our 306090 as we see right here, our duplicate copy. So we got to rotate that around and make sure that we have it put back in place so we can optimize our material. So let's go ahead and select the new copy. We'll come over here to rotate, and it says rotate it with a specified basis. I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm going to go find my polar tracking. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see it, pan down. And as you can tell, as I go down here to this angle there, it comes in rotated at the correct angle. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Whoops, we'll do that again. Roll out, select it all, double check here, hit escape, left to right, rotate. Okay, specify my base point. I'll come up here to the top again, and I'm going to rotate around to this point and click, and there it is rotated. Should have done that the first time. All right, so let's roll up on this a little bit because we're going to move it now. So I'll select all of this. I'll hit the move command this time, and I'll go to my base point that I want to go to. We'll scroll up to the bottom here with the steel being held close, and we'll come up here to this, and we'll come up 0.125 based on our previously recorded instructions, and hit enter. There it is, perfect. Rotated and separated exactly the way I want it. Now again, save your file, and let's get this file ready to laser engrave. Okay, the last and final step for us on this project is to get this file that we've just created over to our laser engraver. And in our case, we're just going to attach this file as a DXF, and we're going to email it to ourselves. So let's get started in doing that. So I need to save this file as a DXF. So I'm going to come down here and say Save As, click on this, and I'm going to make sure I'm in where it says my triangle hyphen number 2. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select AutoCAD DXF. The latest version that I'm using is 2018, but whatever your version is, go ahead and select that. So I'm going to select that, and it's going to give it the same name. And hit OK. I've already created it once, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. Or go ahead and write over it. Okay, now that it's saved that, I'm going to come down here to my Gmail account, and I'm going to send myself a Gmail. Let Gmail go ahead and come up, and immediately I'm going to compose a file. Give Gmail a moment. And I'll come over here and send this to myself. In my case, it's Texas Platman, and I'm going to email the file to myself, and I'm going to say 3060 hyphen 90 triangle to laser. Okay. Then the most important step is making sure I attach that file. So I'll come out here and I'll look at my project file folder. In this case, it's the P signs, 306090, and I'll find my DXF file. Well, where's my DXF file? It says right here, triangle number 2. You see it says on the icon DXF. We'll go ahead and attach that, and then I'll send it to myself. Now that I send it to myself, I see my email already come up. Then I'll take and get into Gmail on the computers by the laser engraver, call up and download this file and open it, and it already works. We'll continue with that soon.